Perhaps no other secret society is enjoying a greater resurgence in popularity currently than the Order of the Knights Templar. From Dan Brown's best-selling novel, The Da Vinci Code, to countless Hollywood blockbusters, numerous theories and speculation surround this pre-medieval phenomenon, and it's easy to see why. With their colorful hybrid of valiant chivalry, unanswered mysteries, and unmitigated bravado, the historical Knights Templar cut a broad swath through the collective unconscious, at once evoking the gallantry of the Crusades, the exotic mystique of journeys into foreign lands, and pathos for their ultimate demise. Apologists for the Knights Templar portray them as misunderstood martyrs, whose self-sacrifice at the behest of imperial conquest forever altered the course of history. Hardly a bad reputation for an order that was disbanded and burned at the stake over 700 years ago. Yet the Templar mystique has continued to filter, oftentimes unseen, not only into popular lore, but through the underground stream of secret societies. In this chapter, I hope to examine not only the history of the Order, as well as their mysteries, but their influence in more shadowy undertakings as well. An influence that may indicate not only the undying love for the Templar mystique and the continuation of their ideals, but perhaps a continuation of their very existence itself. The poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, more commonly referred to as the Knights Templar, came about in 1120 at the urging of French knight Hugues de Payan, who had approached both the king and patriarch of Jerusalem to grant an official monastic order for the protection of pilgrims visiting the holy city of Jerusalem. At the time of their inception, the Templars only numbered 9 in their ranks, all of whom had sworn a specific vow of poverty. Just 30 years later, their numbers had swollen to the thousands and were prosperous enough to lend money and credit to both citizens and government figures alike. During the time of the Crusades, the Templars were often a key military component for the expansion of the Holy Roman Empire, being utilized as advance shock troops in some of the most decisive battles of the conquest, including the Battle of Montgizar, where some 500 knights helped defeat the legendary Sultan Saladin's troops, which numbered over 26,000 combatants. Both their reputation as fearless and feckless warrior monks, as well as the uncouth lore surrounding them, a regular euphemism of the time was to drink and swear like a Templar, helped establish the reputation of the Knights Templar as one of the most elite and fearsome scourges to attack the Middle East, a reputation they shared with the Hashishins of the previous chapter, of whom the Templars undoubtedly came into contact with, and it is rumored, integrated certain philosophical tenets and mysteries into their secret initiation rites. By 1307, both the wealth, reputation, and arrogance of the Templars had fallen into negative favor, particularly with the newly elected Pope Clement V, who sought to merge the order with another Christian military council, the Order of the Hospitallers, granting him benefit and power over both, as well as King Philip IV of France, who was in debt to the Templars as a result of his war with England. Rumors began to abound about the Templars' secret teachings. They were reputed to regularly engage in homosexuality, both denying the divinity of Christ and both trampling and spitting on the cross as part of their initiation rites, and worshipping a strange bearded idol of a head, alternately the head of a goat, they referred to as Baphomet. These charges, along with others that constitute what was unquestionably heretical in 14th century France, have never been proven. But they have also never been disproven. Homosexuality has been a common practice among soldiers who, traveling long distances of many years without wives, seek some form of gratification, and may have been more prevalent among warrior monks sworn to uphold a vow of celibacy. Denying and insulting the divinity of Jesus may seem like an unusual practice among sworn defenders of Christendom, but what better way to instill fear and test a potential recruit's bravado than attacking the general tenets of their sworn allegiance? Numerous theories abound for the presence of Baphomet. These include a linguistic corruption of the Prophet Muhammad, or Mahomet, a symbol of the baptism of wisdom, the direct translation of the Greek term Baphometi, and a literal idol. It is interesting to note that in Kabbalistic theory, the lesser countenance of God, the Zohar Anpin, is revealed as a human head. Regardless of these elaborations, one thing is certain. On Friday, October 13th of 1307, the origin of the superstition of Friday the 13th, King Philip ordered the arrest of several hundred Knights Templar, including their Grand Master Jacques de Molay, and formally charged them with heresy, financial corruption, bribery, and secrecy. Their assets were seized, members were tortured and burned alive at the stake, including de Molay, and the order was formally dissolved. The few Templars who survived the extermination went underground into recluse, re-emerging a few years later to forge alliances with other military Christian orders prevalent in Europe at the time, such as the Order of Teutonic Knights and the Knights of St. John. The Templars may have died in the most ignominious of manners, but their legacy, and some say their secret teachings, continue to this day, sometimes in the most sinister form imaginable, as you will soon see. The Templar mystique continues to this day, permeated through the teachings of esoteric orders and secret societies, as well as seemingly innocuous entities. The international youth organization Order of DeMolay, a Freemasonic offshoot, professing to teach young men to become better and more responsible community leaders and organizers, takes its name from the martyred Templar Jacques de Molay. The Catholic fraternal organization, the Knights of Columbus, freely admit that their structure is modeled after the spirit of the Knights Templar, and the French Revolution, widely held to be masterminded by the Order of Illuminati, of whom we'll go into detail in subsequent chapters, found an unlikely ally in the Templars when, during the public execution of Louis XV, an unknown man leapt onto the scaffolding to yell, "Jacques de Molay, thou art avenged!" before the applauding crowd before disappearing back into mystery. A blood-drunk boast or a Templar descendant? Certain traditions hold that some surviving Templars, who were widespread in their travels and most certainly held alliances and links with numerous European countries, went on to the British Isles, in particular Scotland, where they perpetuated their teachings and practices in secret, eventually forming the nucleus of one of the most powerful and influential secret societies in the West. The ancient and accepted rite of Freemasonry. The link between the Templars and Freemasonry became even more brazen in the 18th century, when the High Knights Templar of Ireland Lodge accepted a charter from the Mother Lodge of Freemasonry in Ireland, itself said to be received from a reconstituted Templar order in Paris, establishing and recognizing their claims of Masonic jurisdiction, eventually incorporating their rites into what has been known as York Rite Masonry. This rite is only available by invitation only, and ostensibly, only Freemasons who profess belief in Christianity, as opposed to standard Freemasonry, which is available to anyone who professes belief in a higher power of any sort, are eligible. Yet the historical Knights Templar, who were also a nominally Christian organization, were alleged to hold beliefs diametrically opposite to conventional Christian doctrine, including the rejection of Jesus Christ, perhaps influenced by contact with the nearby heretical Cathar sect of Gnostics, active in the 12th and 13th centuries in the region. Could it be that their Masonic descendants also teach similar doctrines in their lodge meetings? Doctrines hidden, even from the eyes of the sincere but misguided new recruit. The Prior of Sion. Exposed in the early 1980s by writers Michael Bagant, Richard Lee, and Henry Lincoln in their best-selling book, Holy Blood, Holy Grail, the Prior of Sion fulfills the ultimate archetype of a secret society, a hereditary and generational group of French moneyed elite who claim a lineage directly back to the Knights Templar, guarding a central and highly damaging secret. A secret so damning, it could bring down the foundations of Christianity itself. Namely, the Prior of Sion holds that Jesus did not die on the cross, but survived, and furthermore, established a bloodline with the otherwise vilified Mary Magdalene that formed both the Merovingian dynasty and, through successive generations, the Templars themselves. They purport that this bloodline is the true secret behind the Templar persecution, and that they are sworn to preserve this secret bloodline. While very little historical or scholarly data has been published on the Priory of Sion, critics have accused the group of establishing a complex hoax. There has been a slew of mysterious deaths and kidnappings related to allegedly prominent members and grandmasters of the Priory that beg a closer examination. If it is an elaborate hoax, why would members go to such lengths to both conceal and perpetuate its myths? Perhaps not surprisingly, the Priory's membership roster also includes a number of figures alleged to also be functioning within the structure of the dreaded Illuminati. Certainly, the wealth accumulated by the Priory is enough to make even the most casual observer view their activities with suspicion. The new Order of Templars was formed by defrocked Cistercian monk and homosexual Georg Lanz von Liebenfels in Austria in 1905. The Ordo Novi Templi, or New Order of Templars, was a bizarre concoction of Germanic neo-paganism, quack science, virulent racism, creative biblical interpretations, and supposedly divine revelations. It was dedicated to further the racial self-confidence by doing pedigree and racial research, beauty contests, and the founding of racist future sites in underdeveloped parts of the earth. To this end, Liebenfels regularly published a magazine entitled Ostara, named for the pre-Christian holy day of the vernal equinox. It found its strongest support among brooding pseudo-intellectuals of racist and anti-Semitic circles, including a young and impressionable Adolf Hitler. In it, Liebenfels regularly upheld the superiority of the Aryan race and made military and religious vows to safeguard the sanctity of the race by sterilizing and eradicating the presence of lower and inferior races. What would seem like absurd jabberwocky of the most inane caliber by any sensible human was obviously taken quite seriously by the Third Reich. And it is safe to say that by just following orders, the Templar concepts of sacred duty and unswerving devotion to an ideal found a tragic and convoluted conclusion in the gas chambers of Dachau and Auschwitz. The Ordo Templi Orientis is a pseudo-Masonic occult society of self-styled warrior monks sworn to uphold the religion of Thelema. This is an outlandish mixture of pseudo-Egyptian divine revelation, supposedly received by British occultist Aleister Crowley in 1904 via a channeled text entitled The Book of the Law. Its central tenet can be summed up by the statement, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." The Ordo Templi Orientis, literally Order of the Temple of the East, seems about as far away from the Christian ideology behind the historic Knights Templar as possible. Yet its manifesto, published in 1919, maintains that in its hands is concentrated the wisdom and knowledge not only of several esoteric schools of thought, some entirely fictional, but also, most significantly, of the Knights Templar. Their last Grandmaster, Jacques de Molay, was elected as saint in their central religious rite, the Gnostic Mass. It is also worth noting that their website indicates a physical presence in the greater Boston area called the Knights Templar Oasis. Also, their manifesto includes the Order of the Illuminati, and indeed, one of their degrees is referred to as illuminated. While in terms of social influence, the Ordo Templi Orientis seems somewhat small, with current worldwide numbers estimated at a little more than 3,000. Most members tend to be categorized as disenchanted members of lower or middle-class families. Reports of drug abuse and sexual misconduct have been plaguing the cult for well over 30 years. Numerous mysterious deaths have been noted in conjunction with the Ordo Templi Orientis, and allegations of rape and intimidation, sometimes by higher-ups within the ranks, have been launched by former members on numerous occasions over the years. Other recurrences of the Templar mysteries have included the Supreme Military Order of the Temple of Jerusalem, a Christian defense and charitable organization which traces its roots to the historical Knights Templar and was officially registered in France in 1919. Members have been implicated in numerous racist and anti-immigrant attacks. The Order of the Solar Temple is a secret society devoted to New Age philosophy, reincarnation, Rosicrucian practices, and UFO contact with ties to the French far right. Many of its members famously committed mass suicide in Switzerland in 1994 and 1995. The new esoteric Order of the Knights Templar is a New Age and neo-Gnostic cult with ties to a noted author within the genre whose works have praised incest and whose followers have been accused of bribery and embezzlement. The ancient Order of Black Templars is a South American sect that practices an offbeat blend of voodoo and Santeria, Freemasonry, and neo-Gnosticism, with links to the Ordo Templi Orientis, and a noted Chicago cult leader known for allegations of extreme sexual misconduct and prostitution. Not to mention numerous groups with highly dubious claims of being the reconstituted Knights Templar, including one outfit whose membership included the Norwegian Anders Breivik. Breivik murdered over 75 people, many of them teenagers and preteens, in Norway during a mass killing in 2009. He cited extreme anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant motives as rationale for his attack. His manifesto, some 1,500 pages of rambling and vitriolic far-right acerbity, makes numerous references to the ideals of the Templars. Since their official dissolution in 1312, the names of the original Knights Templar have been lost to history, with the exception of the more prominent members. However, members of Templar-derived ideologies and organizations are too wide to list here. Some who have been alleged to have been members include French filmmaker and painter Jean Cocteau, associated with the Prior of Sion, actor John Wayne, a Freemason and member of the Order of DeMolay, and baseball player Babe Ruth, a member of the Knights of Columbus. Composer Claude Debussy was linked to the Prior of Sion, and cartoonist Mel Blanc was part of the Order of DeMolay. Musicians Daryl Hall, John Frusciante, and Mick Fleetwood were associated with the Ordo Templi Orientis. Actor Roy Rogers was a Freemason, and far-right Belgian politician Jean-François Thiriart was part of the Order of the Solar Temple. Actor Ernest Borgnine was a Freemason, and Chicago Mayor Richard Daley was linked to the Knights of Columbus. Journalist Ed Bradley was a Freemason, and musician Todd Rundgren was part of the Ordo Templi Orientis. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger was a Freemason and member of the Illuminati. Author John Steinbeck was part of the Order of DeMolay, and cartoonist and innovator Walt Disney was a Freemason. Former Presidents Ronald Reagan and George Bush were Freemasons and members of the Illuminati. Painter and inventor Leonardo da Vinci was associated with the Prior of Sion, and filmmaker Kenneth Anger was part of the Ordo Templi Orientis. Actor Jerry Orbach was a member of the Order of DeMolay and a Freemason. General Douglas M. MacArthur was a Freemason, and author Victor Hugo was linked to the Prior of Sion. Singer and actor Burl Ives was part of the Order of DeMolay, and photographer Robert Mapplethorpe was associated with the Ordo Templi Orientis. Actor Sylvester Stallone was a Freemason, and composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was a Freemason and member of the Illuminati. American Revolutionary. Paul Revere was a Freemason. Prime Minister Cecil Rhodes was a Freemason and member of the Illuminati, and Church of Mormon founder Brigham Young was a Freemason.